Good evening. Thanks for joining us on the CNBC-TV18 special. India has jumped 23 places in the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business rankings. From 100 last year, India now clocks in at 77. As we await to hear from the Finance Minister, the Commerce Minister and other top officials, here's the DIPP Secretary Ramesh Abhishek, the man who, along with his team, has worked hard to ensure that India climbs up the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business rankings. Take a look. How have you managed to achieve another 23-place jump this year?
Shireen, in the last 2 years, we actually established a hotline with our users and clients. I think that is the best thing that happened. The kind of connect that we have with the stakeholders now. Earlier, reforms were being done, but we were not checking on a regular basis whether the reforms are being felt on the ground. And unless those are felt on the ground, the World Bank doesn't take cognizance of it. So I think that is the hotline that we have set up, which is working very well.
So, you know, that's interesting because as you point out, the World Bank goes by feedback. Of course, the two cities that it focuses on are Mumbai and Delhi, but this is feedback from stakeholders on the basis of which the World Bank prepares its report, which is different from the state's ease of doing business rankings that the DIPP actually puts out, because there what the government says it feels has changed on the ground, and the indications from stakeholders has seen a variance in your last assessment. But let me start by asking you, sir, about the areas where we've made most progress. Construction permits in 2017 at 181. In 2018 we're at number 52. That's a change of 129 spots. What's changed?
Actually, in 3 years, we have done enormous amount of work. The Municipal Corporation of Delhi, South MCD and the Municipal Corporation of Mumbai, they have worked hard, supervised by the Ministry of Urban Development, now Minister of Housing and Urban Affairs. See, first of all, earlier everybody had to go to several agencies outside the corporation and within the corporation to apply for NOCs when they wanted to get a building permit. Now all that was integrated into one common application form. And an online system was set up that you have to apply only online, not offline. Then we had the functionality of a deemed NOC. If there was no objection within 15 days, it was a deemed NOC. Then deemed approval if there was no decision in 30 days. Then for inspections also, now we have a joint inspection mechanism. And there have been several other changes which has made sure that these people don't have to worry about construction permit at all. Completely online. They don't have to run around at the agencies like National Monument Authority, Airport Authority of India, DMRC. They also made color-coded maps so that they can also quickly give a feedback about whether a particular building can be constructed or not. So all that has made, process re-engineering, use of technology, removal of personal interface, I think has made this change. It took time to be reflected on the ground because this is a very complex operation.
So, you said that you've been working on improving the ranking on construction permits for 3 years, and it's showing results in this year's survey. How much of this is being replicated across other states as well? Is the Delhi and Mumbai example being exported to other states as well when it comes to construction permits? And again, for the benefit of our viewers, let me just highlight what changes have been made on the ground. So in terms of construction permits, procedures have been reduced from 37 to 20 in Mumbai and from 24 to 16 in Delhi. Time reduced for getting permits, 128 days earlier to 99 days in Mumbai now, and 157 odd days in Delhi earlier to 91 days today. So significant improvement.
Yes. As a matter of fact, this is all based on the feedback. Whenever we made a system, whenever we made a change and people said that they are not able to feel it, we found the reason. And the laws have been amended. You look at the unified building laws. That actually allows for up to 1.5 lakh square meters of environment approval is inbuilt into the unified building bylaws, which were implemented in Delhi. So there has been enormous empowerment of the municipal corporations, delegation of powers by the Ministry of Environment and Forest. So these legislative changes, regulatory changes, bringing in technology and process re-engineering, all that have had a great effect. And this is going to help the construction industry. And we are talking about other cities and states. Actually, these reforms are being done in all over the country. So now we have most of the states who are having the similar system. So this is not unique to Delhi and Mumbai. And I may just also clarify that if you look at the 10 indicators on which World Bank does its ranking, many of those indicators are pan-India. Let's say trading across borders, access to credit, or let's say even paying taxes. Most of these are central government. Now some of that is shared with the states, and protecting minority investors, insolvency and bankruptcy code. So they are all pan-India reforms.
Sir, let me talk to you about the other indicator where we've seen a significant up move, and that is trading across borders. The ranking in 2017 was 146. In 2018, we're now at number 80, the difference of about 66 positions. What have been the big changes that have happened there in order for us to make this improvement and also come closer to international best practices?
Actually, Shireen, I think that of all the reforms that we have done, one of the biggest impact reforms is on trading across borders. That affects every exporter and importer in the country and every business that depends on imports as well. So I think this is a dramatic change that has happened. See, first of all, the customs set up a very robust risk management system. Earlier they were checking 100% of the consignments. They have now stopped it. Now they are checking only about, let's say about 5 to 10%. And in some cases, maybe 20 or 30%. So overall consignment, if you combine all types of cargo, is less than 20%. Secondly, they made an online system so that you don't have to again apply to various partner agencies like FSSAI and all that. Then they had the e-Sanchit, so that there is a repository of electronic documents, so you don't have to run around. Then of course getting a facility of getting an advance bill of entry. Now you can actually, importer can apply for this bill of entry can be filed much before the vessel actually arrives. So you complete your formalities even before the vessel has come. Direct port delivery and direct port entry. In JNPT and other places, see, now earlier there was virtually no direct port delivery for importers. Now it is almost 40% in JNPT, and it is going up in other places. Direct port entry for exporters. There earlier every container had to be stuffed in the factory in the presence of a customs inspector. Now in the factory there is a possibility of electronic sealing. Now they can just seal it themselves, and the full container straight away goes for export. So you see the mind-boggling changes have taken place in customs. It is reflected this year. We are very glad. This was one of our complaints, that actually changes in the ground were not reflected earlier. So we are very glad that finally we have got the result that we had been seeking.
Well, I remember very clearly you told me that we had done a lot of work on this front, but you were not, but the ranking last year specifically on this parameter was below your expectation. But let me talk to you about two other important indicators. And resolving insolvency, 137 was the ranking last year, 108 is where we are. We're up 29 points. But do you believe that the full benefits of the rollout of the IBC haven't fully been factored in, and how much of an improvement would you expect?
See, the benefit of enactment of the IBC we got last year, because our quality of that regulation index went up. But now the challenge is to get more and more companies to go for reorganization and not liquidation. We are hoping that more and more companies will actually opt for the route of reorganization, and then actually our ranking will improve further in the IBC insolvency resolution. But right now, unfortunately, more companies are going for liquidation. So that is a trend we hope will be reversed, because the entire IBC regime is getting more robust. People are finding more and more results. So that will actually have the impact. One benefit we had of IBC this year on access to credit, we moved up a little bit, because now the secured creditors are actually, they have the full topmost priority. So that actually helped us improve our rank in access to credit.
So outside of the fact that liquidation is a concern and could perhaps weigh on the ranking even next year if that trend were to continue, what is the other feedback specific to the IBC process that the rankings have thrown up?
See, the main thing World Bank sees after the enactment of a good law is recovery. And the recovery percentage will go up only when there is more reorganization and resolution and not liquidation. You never get much recovery in liquidation. So that is what I think that should be the objective, that should be the aim, that more and more companies hopefully will go for reorganization now.
Is there a worry, because under the law 272 is the timeline for resolution, but most cases so far, the ones that have been resolved even out of the original 12 have taken in excess of that?
See, we have to understand that this was done only 2 years back. And for such a massive law and implementation machinery, I think the work has been remarkable. I mean, all the problems will not get sorted out in a very short time, but I think things are improving very rapidly. And in next 1 year, we definitely hope that we will make further progress.
Let me ask you about the impact of the GST, sir, because if I look at the paying taxes parameter, 156 2017, that was the ranking, 121 this year, up 35 places. What's been the impact of the GST and how does this reflect as far as the ranking is concerned?
Actually, in this year, the GST impact has been there in terms of number of taxes that have come down, the overall tax rate has come down, and of course the corporate tax rate for smaller companies with turnover 250 crores is now come down to 25 from 30. That all has been positive, but I think we will get full benefit of GST rollout and other tax reforms next year when the filing becomes slightly more easy, because last year
it continues to be a cause for concern.
The ranking has been done based on the work between before December, so even the tax rate reduction etc. has been prorated, so the full year was not available for us to get the impact of GST, because it came in July and they only took data till December. Actually filing etc. has become much simpler after that, and actually they got better after November itself. So we are hoping,
even though the simplified form is still not out for use.
See, for such a huge and massive reform, I think the government has been acting very swiftly to the concerns raised by the stakeholders. So now already things have improved dramatically, and all this is going to show its impact next year on paying taxes.
Okay, if I could just link the GST experience and the paying taxes experience to what we've seen on trading across borders, because one of the concerns specific to GST is the exporter refund issue, and the government has tried to ensure that refunds are given out faster. There's been several camps and campaigns that have happened, but this continues to be a cause for concern. What does the survey tell you on that front?
See, World Bank was not looking exactly at this issue, but of course independently this has been an important issue, and customs, GST, they have really responded very well, and there have been massive refunds. I think almost 90,000 crores have been refunded in the last 7-8 months. This is a work in progress. Things are getting better. When you do such a massive reform in the country, I think there is always going to be a slight transition process, but it has dramatically improved now.
Okay, what would be the pain points that you would now like to work on? Because I know that the 2 or 3 aspects where you were disappointed last year, you've done significantly better, and that's taken up our overall ranking. What will be the key focus areas from here on?
See, after the recent amendment of the Commercial Court and Commercial Divisions Act, we have been able to set up commercial courts in Delhi and Mumbai. So our goal will be to see fast-track resolution of these commercial cases, which are transferred now to these commercial courts. That will help us in the difficult indicator of enforcing contracts. Registering property is another challenge. A lot of work has been done on digitization of records, property records, registry offices, and cadastral maps and all that in Delhi and Mumbai. Things are better in Mumbai, but I think we need to see the full thing done, and that's why that's another challenge. As I mentioned on IBC, we hope that there will be more recovery through resolution process, and of course in paying taxes also things are going to improve. So these are the major improvements that we are looking for in the next year, and then again look forward to a substantial improvement.
Let me ask you about the starting a business parameter, where again we've seen a jump of about 21 points. We're now at 137 versus 158 last year. What's the sense that you get that the survey is telling you in terms of where growth is headed in people wanting to get into business, start enterprises?
See, one of the biggest process reengineering was done in starting business in the last 2 years. The SPICE form has integrated the company incorporation, PAN, TAN, DIN, everything. We even came out with a reserve unique name facility that you can actually reserve a name in just less than 4 hours. But the thing is, though we have improved our DTA from 75 to 80 this year, it doesn't get fully reflected in the ranking because a lot of countries are doing very well in this indicator. So for breaking through in the top 50 or something, you have to do some dramatic changes. Now we are hoping to combine GST registration, EPFO, ESIC registration with SPICE this year. So that will cut down several procedures. So those are the kind of changes that we are looking for. Doing away with digital signature, that we are trying to do that for last couple of years. There have been some issues, but if that can be done, that's one procedure less. So those, if we are able to do those kind of changes, actually we will do very well in starting business. But the time taken for starting business has come down quite dramatically this year.
You talked about dramatic changes being needed, at least as far as the starting business indicator was concerned. Where else do you believe that dramatic changes will be needed to be able to better the performance that you've delivered on, not just this year, but also the previous year?
See,
breaking into the top 50, I would imagine that that's the goal for next year.
See, in 3 indicators, we are already in top 25. In 2 indicators, we are in top 80. So we are actually top 80 in 5 indicators, within which 3 are in top 25. So now our challenges are only confined to the ones that we have mentioned, on registering property, enforcing contract, paying taxes, starting business. So these are the places where we have to work on, and these are we have already identified the reforms. The concerned agencies are working on them. So our work is going on relentlessly. See, this is, as I mentioned earlier, not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yes.
You have to persevere, you have to wait for results, and it's a very painstaking process where you work on the reforms, improve yourself, get feedback, again take corrective measures. So this is not something that happens in a very short time. So we have to be patient, and our patience has actually shown results. So you can see that earlier people were restless.
Yes.
Now this dramatic result shows that we have been on the right track, and with a motivated civil service and bureaucracy, with such strong political commitment, we have no doubt that we will reach top 50, and hopefully sooner than later.
The experience that you've been able to sort of take forward here as far as the ease of doing business rankings with the World Bank is concerned, what can we expect now in being able to bridge the gap or the variance when it comes to states where what the government claims and what the ground reality is are at variance?
See, last year, as you know, Shireen, we did 20% of the evaluation of state reforms was done based on feedback. And that shows some variation in the claims that were being made, which is expected, because that variation was there even for our World Bank doing business report earlier.
Yes.
But now what we are doing next year, we are complete feedback-based evaluation.
Okay.
So there will be
even for states?
For states, 100% evaluation is feedback-based. We have already shared the set of reforms that we'll be evaluating them on. We have given that time till February next year, and after that we will start our process of collecting feedback.
Okay, so that will be the big change that we'll see as far as the states are concerned. Let me end then by asking you, feel confident about entering the top 50 next year?
We'll definitely like to achieve top 50 next year itself, but as I said, it all depends on the number of reforms being implemented and also being felt on the ground by the participants. It's going to be a Herculean task, but I think we are definitely on track.
Mr. Abhishek, it's always a pleasure speaking with you. Once again, congratulations to you and your team for pulling off another very successful achievement here as far as the World Bank's ease of doing business rankings are concerned, and we wish you the very best of luck for the year ahead. Thanks very much for your time, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Shireen.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this CNBC TV18 special. From all of us here, goodbye. Many thanks for watching. Well, that was the DIPP Secretary Ramesh Abhishek there on the ease of doing business rankings. Commerce Minister Suresh Prabhu also commenting on India's performance. Let's just listen in before we take a quick break.
After Prime Minister Narendra Modi has become the Prime Minister of India, we have been seeing a constant improvement, and particularly last 2 years have been phenomenal. As has been pointed out, and you already seen the presentation, it's a combination of several factors: administrative changes, legislative reforms, and particularly what the Finance Minister did, very path-breaking reforms, whether it's Insolvency Code, whether it's GST and many others, as well as the technological changes which has impacted it positively, and therefore we have been able to improve it in a very big way. Also, it's a teamwork between all the ministries, and most important, some of the most key important ministries in the central government, state governments, as well as even local governments, because this construction permit and many issues are responsible, the local governments are also responsible for that. And therefore, it has been a very collaborative effort, as well as combination of several interventions, and this has really resulted into a great improvement into this ease of doing business index. I am sure as we go on, we'll continue to improve it more and more, and as we are seeing, the structural changes which have been initiated will bring in huge benefits down the line over a period of time. So that has not been fully captured yet. So you will see a ripple effect of many of the changes which have been already initiated, and that again will result into a constant improvement, as of course the government will keep taking new reform measures and it will happen. For example, on this international trade, the ease of doing business beyond borders, there is already a proposal which is already under implementation, wherein we'll be able to do import or export any international trade transaction virtually on your mobile. And that you can imagine what kind of a positive impact it will have, of course, for improving our trade and business, but of course that will again result into ease of doing business improvement. So many of the measures which are already underway, under implementation, the full impact of that is yet to be felt, and therefore you can see a great improvement in that. So therefore, this is a beginning of a new process in which government will get out of not just business, but allow people to do their business. So our business will be allowing people to do their business, and therefore it will constantly improve. In fact, separately, I already set up a committee under the chairmanship of Secretary DIPP to remove as much of unwarranted, unproductive regulation as possible. That again will result into improvement of ease of doing business as well allowing entrepreneurship to grow. On the other hand, and this is something which is very interesting, we have improved our ranking nationally. DIPP, we have taken a new initiative that how do you improve ease of doing business for the districts of India. And we have started working on them, and we have selected some districts on a pilot basis, and those districts again will be doing something very different so that people who actually do business at the ground, even large industries are finally set up in some district. So if you can improve ease of doing business in a district, that again will result into improvement of ease of doing business index at a national level. So this again will be a bottoms-up approach, which again will result into this. So many of these measures you will see happening more rapidly, as well as the extension of it will result into reaping benefit over the next period of time. So this is a good news. I am sure this will allow even startup community to do business. Actually, we have taken some other measures which is also will finally reflect into is one day, is that regulatory hurdles for a startup community, sectorally, how can we remove them? And because the regulation has been framed, has been designed to regulate an activity which was age-old.
उसमें जो पिछले वर्ष के रिफॉर्म्स हैं और जो इम्प्रूवमेंट हुए हैं, वो फैक्टर इन किए जाते हैं. कट ऑफ डेट शायद 31 मई, 1 मई, तो 1 मई तक जो रिफॉर्म्स होते हैं वो उस अक्टूबर की रिपोर्ट में आ जाते हैं. और इस साल जो रिपोर्ट आएगी 2018 में, उसको रैंकिंग माना जाएगा. 2019 की रैंकिंग ये है. तो दिस इज रैंकिंग फॉर द नेक्स्ट ईयर. तो जब ये वर्तमान सरकार बनी थी तो 26 मई हो चुकी थी, तो जो 2015 की रिपोर्ट है वो अक्टूबर 2014 में आई थी. और इसलिए जो पुरानी सरकारों ने काम किया हुआ था वो उसके आधार पर बनी थी वो रिपोर्ट. तो इसलिए 2014 में हम कहां थे 2015 की रिपोर्ट के मुताबिक, और 4 साल में कहां पहुंचे. क्योंकि आपको याद रहे कि प्रधानमंत्री जी ने यह कहा था कि हमें पहले 50 में पहुंचना है. और ये तब कहा था जब सरकार बनी तो हम पोजीशन नंबर 142 पे थे. वी वर 142. तो 142 से 5 साल में 50 तक पहुंच जाएं, ये शायद आज तक वर्ल्ड बैंक बिजनेस रैंकिंग्स में हुआ नहीं है. 3 साल बाद हम 100 नंबर पे थे. 4 साल बाद हम 77 पे थे. और इसके पीछे एक कारण यह भी रहा कि डीआईपीपी जो इस ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस को एडमिनिस्टर करता है, वो इस बारीकियों में गया कि हर क्राइटेरिया पे अगर हमने रैंकिंग ऊपर करनी है तो क्या क्या हमें सब स्टेप्स करने पड़ेंगे. इन्फोर्समेंट ऑफ कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कोई एक स्टेप करने से नहीं होगा। अगर जितने उनके क्राइटेरिया हैं उसके नंबर दिए जाते हैं तो ये सब्जेक्टिव क्राइटेरिया है, और क्योंकि नंबर दिए जाते हैं तो किन किन चीजों के लिए नंबर दिए जाते हैं, यू हैव लिटरली टू क्रैक द कोड। और इसलिए 10 क्राइटेरियाज पे आप उस कोड को क्रैक कीजिए, उसकी बारीकियों में जाइए, और किसमें हमें पहले नंबर बहुत कम मिलते रहे हैं उसको सुधारने का प्रयास कीजिए। यू ट्राई एंड इंप्रूव दैट क्राइटेरिया। अगर आप इसमें देखें, क्योंकि जो इनिशियल टारगेट 50 का था, कोई देश अगर 142 और उसके आसपास रहा हो दशकों तक, तो स्टार्टिंग अ बिजनेस में हम 158 में थे, और 4 साल बाद अभी भी हम 137 पे हैं। इसका मतलब ये एक ऐसा एरिया है जिसमें बहुत अभी भी सुधार की आवश्यकता है।
Well, that is the finance minister saying that the DIPP has managed to crack the code on how to move up the World Bank's ease of doing business rankings. It's reflecting in the numbers. India is up 23 places in the rankings. From 100 last year, we are now at 77. India was at 130 2 years ago, and from there we've seen a substantial improvement. In fact, India has improved its rank in 6 out of the key 10 indicators. The biggest jump comes in construction permits, where India has improved 129 spots. Another significant improvement is in the trading across borders parameter, where India has jumped 66 places. India's rank, though, has fallen on a couple of parameters like paying taxes and resolving insolvency. The DIPP secretary is saying that these are areas where they hope to make improvements, especially on resolving insolvency. He believes that once we start the process of resolution instead of liquidation, we will see an improvement in this particular parameter. And even on paying taxes, they are hopeful of being able to do better. Well, joining us now to take this conversation forward, Ajay Chibbar, visiting scholar at the George Washington University, Gautam Mehra, tax leader at PwC, and we'll be joined by Ajay Dua, former DIPP secretary as well. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here. Gautam, let me start by asking you, good news coming in on the ease of doing business rankings. 77 is where we find ourselves on balance. You know, this is basis feedback from stakeholders, people who actually experience the changes on the ground. So good news for business?
Oh, absolutely. I think good news is always welcome. And I just heard some tidbits. I heard a good improvement on trading across borders. I think we've been experiencing on the ground that there, at least as far as customs is concerned, there has been a move to, if I'll say, reduce the pain on the last mile documentation and processes. Small things, but that's what gets counted when you see these ranks.
Yeah, trading across borders is one of those parameters where we have seen a significant uptick. Ajay Chibbar also with us. Mr. Chibbar, thanks very much. 77 is where we find ourselves, up 23 spots versus last year. And construction permits, that's where we've seen the most significant improvement. Of course, this takes into consideration feedback from Delhi and Mumbai. What do you make of this?
Yeah, I think it's a good thing that India's rank has improved. If your rank improves on any global indicator, it's got to be a time to celebrate. But I think you have to be a little cautious with this particular indicator, because it's an indicator with quite a lot of flaws, and it's a narrow indicator. So it's a good thing that construction permits has improved a lot, and that will, should increase the project implementation hugely. But at the same time, you have this registering property which has gone in the wrong direction. So, I mean, it's sort of, you take it with one hand and you give it away with the other. I think if we were to see a broader improvement across all these categories, that would also be a good thing. There are also, of course, other signs in the economy that, things are amiss. I mean, the rupee is now again gone beyond 74. So, I mean, it's a good thing on this particular narrow indicator that they have used DIPP to focus on specific sub-steps, as the finance minister said, and kind of gamed this index in the right direction. But, I mean, you know, we have to look at the overall business climate as well, which is not so great at the moment. And I think we have to keep all that in perspective.
Absolutely. Let me, in fact, go across to Rakesh Mittal, the president of the CII, who joins us. Mr. Mittal, good news coming in there on the ease of doing business rankings. But as Ajay Chibber was pointing out, we do also need to keep this in context with the overall business environment. What's your own take on business confidence today? And what do you make of the feedback that your community of business leaders has given you with respect to some of the parameters where we have seen an improvement, especially when it comes to trading across borders? A lot of changes the government claims have been made when it comes to dealing with customs, etc., and that's showing up here in the data.
Absolutely, Shireen. First of all, on behalf of CII, we would like to felicitate the government on this outstanding ranking which we have got. And I can tell you this is beyond what the industry expected. And clearly it's a testimony to the tremendous structural reforms which Prime Minister Modi's government has taken. And clearly his mission mode into sort of monitoring, reviewing the ease of doing business and the states competing with each other has clearly thrown up a ranking of 77, which I believe bodes good for the country, bodes good for the investment climate. And I think more importantly, if I see when I see the ease of doing business rankings going up, especially on the improvement in various areas, including the construction, including trading across borders, setting up businesses, faster approvals. This is also something very good for startup companies, Make in India program. And I believe that Prime Minister's next target, which he talked about, moving to the top 50 rankings, is clearly, is something which we should now aspire for. And to add to that, also the last two surveys which we, the last two surveys which we had at the CII membership was all very positive and very sort of enthusiastic and gung-ho about economy and the consumption moving in various sectors across India.
Does that continue to be the case, given how we've seen the rupee being fairly volatile? We've also seen volatility in the stock markets. Does consumption continue to look strong? Is that the feedback that you're getting from industry? Because feedback across sectors is patchy. The auto sector, for instance, is not seeing such a great festive season. But what is the industry telling you?
Well, we had the last survey, which was sometimes early this month. So clearly, on the festive season, which has just started now, I don't have the numbers, but I believe the sentiment was all good and positive across many sectors. And given that we are seeing a forward movement on the capital investments being announced by corporate India, is clearly a testimony to the growing consumption especially in the rural areas. And I think more importantly also the revival of capacity utilization, which has also sort of resulted in more capex being announced by corporates.
Okay, that's good to hear. Let me go across to former DIPP Secretary Ajay Dua. I'm sure you're happy for your colleagues in the DIPP, Mr. Dua. The fact that we're now up to 77 on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business rankings. First, your quick comment on the overall picture and how we've been able to deliver on this, and what will this now eventually mean in terms of foreign direct investment, for instance, coming into India? Mr. Dua, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah, I think the...
Yeah, I was just...
Sorry, Shireen, please.
Go ahead, sir.
Go ahead. No, the impact on foreign investment of today's performance, if I could say today's performance, is going to be definitely positive. It is a jump by 23 places over an already improved situation, starting with about 134th some years ago. So we are somewhere halfway now. I would compliment the DIPP for piloting this very successfully and assiduously. Coming to the question asked about for FDI, I think it will be positive, though going forward, as we all know, this is a necessary condition, but not a sufficient one to attract for an investment. People who want these things tend to take these as given, saying it should be easy to do a business in the country with all the parameters which we've been working on and have achieved a degree of success. But the number of macro and micro parameters are also necessary to ensure that FDI keeps flowing in. And we need to address these because we do find that in the last 18 months or so, the FDI inflows have become tepid into the country.
Let me take that point across to Gautam Mehra. Gautam, as was being pointed out by Mr. Dua, this is not a sufficient condition necessarily to attract foreign direct investment. Of course, it certainly helps. But what's the overall picture when we talk about FDI inflows into the country, given the global context as well as the domestic factors today?
Yeah, Shireen. And I think my response to that would be that while this score by itself is not going to change things dramatically, if you look what has happened for the score to have improved so dramatically over the last 2 years, that's in two baskets. One is change of laws, and the other is simplification of procedure and processes. And India has made strides on both these fronts. We saw insolvency GST. On processes, I think just the widespread use of technology by the government in various departments and spanning across quite a few of this, it has shown results. I'm sure the direction is right. That is something that, spreads a more feel-good factor amongst investors. As, was correctly mentioned, this is a sufficient, necessary but not a sufficient condition by itself. But the good part is the direction is right.
Absolutely. The direction is certainly looking positive. Let's go across now to the Niti Aayog CEO, Amitabh Kanta, formally with the DIPP. Mr. Kanta, I'm sure that you're pleased with the fact that the DIPP has been able to deliver on a 23-spot jump in the ease of doing business rankings, India coming in at number 77. We were just talking about how really it is the power of technology which has been leveraged across sectors and across processes that has helped India move up these rankings. And also, legislative amendments that have come in for the full benefits, for instance, as the Finance Minister pointed out, of the IBC or of the GST to be factored in. We will perhaps have to wait for next year's rankings. So where do you see us?
Shireen, I think this is a remarkable achievement, and all credit to DIPP and the entire team. I think, to my mind, this is a big jump forward. We've done extremely well in getting credit, in getting electricity, in protecting minority interest. We have jumped up in construction permit also, but we need to make up now on enforcement of contracts and on registering property and on starting business, where we moved up a little bit, but we need a big jump. My view is that it's next year we should definitely go whole hog and get into the top 50. 3 years' time, it's possible to break into top 25. It's very doable if India puts its heart and soul, as it has done, and it shows the determination of the government, because it's brought in major transformation through use of digital technology, doing away with human intervention in many places, improving processes and procedures, bringing in new laws. And it has also demonstrated that it has the ability to bring in structural reforms. GST, insolvency code, RERA, all these are very major structural reforms. And all this put together has brought this very radical transformation in India's ranking.
Right. Since you were talking about registering of property, which continues to be an area of concern, 166 is India's current rank on registering of property. And the DIPP secretary also pointed out that when it comes to things like enforcement of contracts, they're hoping that the setting up of commercial courts, etc., will also aid the process further. But Mr. Kant, I want to now talk about what we're seeing within the country, and that is the ease of doing business, which ranks states across the country, which is something that the DIPP has been taking forward. Now, if you see what is being claimed by the government as the changes on the ground and the stakeholder feedback that's come in, there is a wide variance across the board on each of those parameters between what is claimed and what is the actual experience. So, to your mind now, what needs to be the next steps to ensure that there is more consistency and less patchiness of what is claimed and what is the actual experience?
So the good thing is that in this year's ranking of states, you'll have a feedback from the respondents, much like the World Bank does. And it's very important that over a period of time, the state's ranking is in total consonance with the feedback from the beneficiaries. The respondents' feedback should actually decide what the ranking is all about. Now, the important thing is that the states have carried out huge reforms. It takes a little bit of period. It takes a little while to get them all cracking on ground, getting the implementation process fully on ground. But I think the remarkable thing about the competition among states is that, the first year we did it, Gujarat came number 1. Next year, Andhra came number 1. The third year, Telangana came number 1. So there's massive competition. And the good thing is that the eastern part of India, Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh, the mineral-rich states of India, they are breaking radical reforms in terms of procedures, processes, laws. They are determined to emerge as the number 1. And if the eastern part of India becomes number 1, then India will just boom. So I think this is what competition does. And what it really teaches us that bring in competition. From Niti Aayog, we've done competition on water, on health, on education. And we are seeing massive improvement on learning outcomes, etc., where states are competing. And over a period of time, if once you start measuring, you start naming and shaming, once you start saying good governance is good politics, you will see a completely new India by 2022.
Well, that certainly is the hope, Mr. Kant. But, just the experience of Niti, sir, since you have been looking at ranking states across various parameters, health, for instance, is something that you're looking at, the healthcare ranking. You talked about how this competitive federalism is actually working to the benefit of citizens. Yeah. But what does this all eventually translate into when it comes to being able to attract domestic capital, when it comes to attracting foreign capital? I mean, what is the correlation in your experience to these rankings and the eventual investment that the state is able to garner?
Shireen, the first point I want to make is that we made India a very, very complex, very complicated, very difficult place to do business in. For the first time in India, we are trying to simplify, we are trying to eliminate processes, we are trying to eliminate procedures. So the important thing is, don't look at just the foreign direct investment. That will automatically follow. Make India simple, make India easy, make the life of citizens easy. And as the Prime Minister said, it's about ease of living for the citizens of India. We are making them run around for registering property, etc. Once that happens, rest of it automatically flows. And there will be a direct correlation between states which do well and foreign investments and domestic investments which will follow. If you are able to get a business cracking in one day, if you are able to register the property, if you are able to enforce contracts, then automatically investments will happen. There is a direct correlation.
Okay, Rakesh Mittal, you wanted to make a quick point before we take a break?
Yes, Shireen, what I wanted to say was, the industry is clearly looking forward to continuous momentum and efforts on reforms. And I absolutely agree with Amitabh, if we can really crack the registering property, enforcing contracts, having the land records online will really boost up the rankings in the future. But I think more importantly, while we are looking at the states competing with each other, I think the time has come when we need to take these reforms or the action points right at the district level. Because I believe that will absolutely make sure that in a very sustainable manner, our rankings keep improving and stay upwards rather than, some hiccups which may happen later on. So I think the important issue is simplification and taking these reforms right to the district level.
You're absolutely correct. So let me get a final comment in from Amitabh Kanta, because he is the man working on the backward districts plan. Mr. Kanta, can you leave us with more clarity on where things currently stand? If you can give us a status check, sir.
So, Shireen, first of all, this is a remarkable achievement, what has been done. But secondly, let me tell you that on the aspirational district program, which is about 115 backward districts, we don't call them backward, we call them aspirational. We rank them on 49 indicators across education, health, agriculture, on a real-time basis with third-party feeding in data. And every minute, the districts are competing with each other. Some are going up, some are going down. And we are seeing huge progress, huge progress. I mean, it's a radical transformation that we are seeing across aspirational districts, simply because we are measuring, we are monitoring, and we are putting the ranking in public domain. So district collectors want to improve their districts, and suddenly we find states are filling up posts of doctors, states are focusing on these districts, and there's no reason why the backward districts shouldn't become the topmost district of these states in a very short period of time.
All right, quick wrap-up comments from you, Ajay Dua, as a former DIPP secretary. Given where we are today, what is it that you would like to see being done going forward?
Going forward, I would like to see this exercise of improving the ease of doing business index, or our position that continuing, because many more new items would get added. These parameters have been there for almost 12 years, 2015, 16, or 2005, 6 onwards. And as the nature of business changes, more and more becomes digital, as also activities, the activities which would vary from state to state, which would vary from country to country. This index would also get polished up. There would be new items added. We would need to concentrate on those. Though I would once again say that we passed this exam well when we knew what the questions are and how we had to be addressing those. We've done it well. But going forward, let's take care of our macro parameters, as well as the fact that on the ground, a whole lot of things need to be pushed a bit further if we have to get private domestic investment going, which continues to be slow. And unless the domestic investment takes place, we've seen that the foreign investment by itself doesn't come, because people say, why aren't the local investors making the first move? Why should we be coming from outside? And that's what's been seen in the last 2 or 3 years.
Rakesh Bharti Mittal says that domestic investors are ready to now invest. They're probably on the cusp of wanting to invest in setting up additional capacity, and that's what the CIIs Business Confidence Index shows up as early as this month. But gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV18. Ajay Chibbar, Ajay Dua, Rakesh Mittal, Gautam Mehra and Amitabh Kanta, thank you very much for joining us to discuss India's rankings in the World Bank's ease of doing business. We're up 23 spots at number 77.